Hey guys, this is Alana. Hope you're having a great day and hope your writing is going really well for you today. I want to talk about a time-saving strategy that also might help you if you're having problems with like setting boundaries for your writing time and things like that. So what we're going to be talking about today is the idea of personal policies as well as your non-negotiables, right? So a non-negotiable is something that you decide that is just not for you. All right. So in the writing world, a non-negotiable for me has turned into I'm not going to do multi-author box sets in KU anymore. I've run into I've loved the experience of doing them and I've loved meeting other authors through them, but I've had issues trying to get my books put wide at the end of the term, and if somebody else has published my book in a box set and then I go to publish it again, sometimes Amazon will think that I've like stolen the copyright from someone else. So I have a non-negotiable that I don't do multi-author box sets in KU anymore. When you think about these and you kind of put them in the reference of a personal policy, then basically if someone comes to you and you feel really bad saying no, right, this type of tool is really useful for those of us who have a hard time saying no, a hard time feeling like we're letting people down, things like that. So having a personal policy makes it so that it's not the person and it's not even you. It's like you've got this overarching policy that's to blame, right? So in everyday life also, it might be useful for you to think about policies to help save not only your writing time but your writing energy. I now have a personal policy that I don't do children's ministry. I'm not going to teach Sunday school. I'm not going to be one of the Wednesday night Awana leaders. It takes too much energy out of me. It's not something I enjoy. And it used to be that every single year I would get this nervous feeling because I'm like, oh, it's time for vacation Bible school in the summer. They're going to ask me if I can help, things like that. And now basically I can just say, you know what, I don't work with kids, right? Like I don't do that. And when you're able to kind of frame it in this idea of I've got a policy that this just isn't what's best for me, it's a lot easier to say that than to say, no, I don't want to teach your snot-nosed kids or something. And so maybe your policy is that don't you don't schedule things after 2 in the afternoon because that's your writing time, right? Maybe Mondays is your day to get all your admin stuff together, so you don't schedule social things on Mondays, things like that. It's important to think about. And again, if you have a hard time saying no, if you frame it into this is just my personal policy, it's almost as if like the publisher you has taken the employee you and said, no, you may not do this, right? So my kids have been asking me for years to get into some of their PC computer games with them. And I had to tell them, okay, first of all, I don't want to do it, right? That's hard to tell your kids, no, I don't want to play a silly video game. But I tell them, you know what? Basically, I spend so much time on my computer and I struggle with carpal tunnel. And so my policy is I don't do PC computer games. Sorry, guys. That's easier to say and to frame it in that kind of terms than to just say, no, I don't want to, or no, I'm not going to do that. So it's a great way to protect not only your writing time, right? So when you say something like, oh, well, I can't do appointments before noon because that's when I'm working, right? Practice saying that. If you're still having a hard time seeing yourself as like an actual legit author with an actual legit job, practice saying that. I can't do this because I'm going to be working at those times. I'm sorry, I cannot go as a chaperone to the school field trip because I'm working, right? Like if you had any other job or you were expected to clock in, nobody's going to shame you for saying no. So practice saying that I cannot do that because I'm working at that time. Yeah, so those are just kind of personal policies and non-negotiables. I think it's also important not only to set up personal policies and non-negotiables that kind of they're in your everyday life that protect your writing life, but even within your writing life to have some non-negotiables. So for example, when people ask me, hey, can you email your newsletter about a new book I have out? My kind of canned response is, I'm sorry, I don't do newsletter swaps, but I'll be happy to share it on social media if you remind me like that day. And so I'm not saying, no, that book looks dumb, or no, I don't like you. I'm saying, no, I have a policy that I don't swap newsletters with other authors. And then again, you could say, but I'd be happy to do this if you did that. And that can for sure make it easier to say no. I've got a non-negotiable that for my finances, like it's non-negotiable for me that I'm going to have money in the bank to buy a laptop at the drop of a hat. For me, that's a non-negotiable because the laptop is such an essential part of our business. So if I'm ever discussing, even with myself, right, should I buy this thing? I was looking into this like pretty hefty 5-figure investment for my business a few months ago, and it looks like a great deal, and I was excited about it, but it was going to just take too much out of the savings. And I realized, like, no, I've got this policy. I'm not going to deplete my savings to the point where I couldn't, at the drop of a hat, buy myself a good laptop, right? So having even non-negotiables about your finances can really help. Another one that I have become super clear on is I'm not using personal credit for the business and like paying interest on personal credit cards for the business. That's just not something I'm going to do. So I actually encourage you, if you get a minute and if this kind of resonates with you, I actually made a list, and it's something I review about once a month. Like, what are my non-negotiables for my finances? What are my non-negotiables for my writing? A non-negotiable that I gave for my writing is I don't put books for pre-order until I've written the first draft. Some of you love doing it, having the pre-order up, and that's actually what motivates you. For me, it just makes me way too stressed out because I'm always thinking of the things that might go wrong. So that's a non-negotiable for me. Even if it feels like the smartest business decision to do, I have just made a policy that I'm not going to do that. And once you make that policy, it saves you from having to rethink it every single time the decision comes up, right? So when I'm getting ready to publish another book, I never have to like sit and wonder, oh, well, should I put the next book up for pre-order even though it's not done yet, because I've got this non-negotiable policy. So just start thinking about maybe how you can apply this to your day-to-day life, how you can apply this to your writing life, and hopefully can get you some really good, some boundaries without feeling like a jerk. That's important. And if you're still really struggling saying no to people, another great thing you can do is like what I do with newsletter swaps. I do not do newsletter swaps, but I would be happy to do this instead. That's my go-to response when people ask me to help with VBS at church in the summer. I don't teach VBS, but I'll help you with registration like on the first day if you need that. Sometimes that makes it feel easier to put it into those terms. I heard of some self-employed individuals who run their own business who actually like write out their employee handbook. And I've never actually written it out, but I have thought about it, right? Like, I'm the employee and I'm the employer. The employee is owed certain benefits, right? Like, I'm allowed to take days off as an employee. I'm allowed to not be on call 24 hours. And so sometimes the more we can kind of put these little brackets around like work time, lifetime, things that drain your energy versus like saving that energy for things that really make you build up. Those are great things to help just with your productivity, your inspiration, your creativity. Hope that was helpful. Hope you guys are having a great day. Let me know what some of your non-negotiables are in the comments, and we'll talk soon.